Looking back at the preliminary task that our group produced, we feel that as a group we have learned several things that helped us to progress in all of the different stages throughout the producing of our thriller film. This includes in the early stages the way we researched, then how we planned, and finally how we edited our thriller film.
One of the first things that we have learned in the progression from the preliminary task to the main task is the importance of planning shots and camera angles. When we produced our preliminary task, we did not plan any shots, or even produce a storyboard. Due to our hastiness to start filming without any real prior planning, it is clearly visible the compromise in filming. When it came to filming our actual thriller film, we decided that it was probably best to produce a shot list. By producing a shot list on the day of filming, we would know exactly what kind of camera angle shots we wanted to achieve, the location of each shot, the characters in the shot, and the costuming. Thanks to the shot list, the difference in quality between our preliminary task and our actual thriller film is astonishing.
The second thing that we have learned in the progression from the preliminary task to the main task is the importance of maintaining continuity. When we produced our preliminary task, there was a few continuity errors. The changing of Emily's clothes halfway, though the film position of us in different shots not quite matching up. These things proved to be immediately obvious whilst we were editing the film. It affected the flow of our preliminary task so greatly that it was almost comic when rewatching this. Thanks to the fact that we produced this error in the preliminary task, we knew that it was very important to not replicate this, or anything similar in our actual thriller film. If we did, it would have made what was meant to be a serious and thrilling film into something rather comic. To avoid continuity errors, the shot list was very helpful as it contained a description of the object's costuming that was present in each scene. Another way that we managed to limit the amount of continuity errors was by keeping filming to as few days as possible. This would mean that changes in weather and scenery would not be so drastically affected, which would affect the continuity majorly.
The third thing that we have learned in the progression from the preliminary to the main task is that when going to edit our preliminary task, we found that we had not filmed enough angles and shots. We subsequently made absolutely sure that we took as many angles as possible in making our thriller intro. This very much worked to our advantage as we used the excess of shot angles to cut between shots for effect and to apply techniques such as action matching to create an interesting but flowing sequence.
The fourth thing that we have learned in the progression from the preliminary task to the main task is the difference between a video application piece of software like iMovie that we used in our preliminary task and the high-end video software Final Cut Pro X, which we used to produce our final thriller film. iMovie is designed to be used for simple tasks during editing, such as cutting up clips, adding music, and applying some video effects. This can prove perfect for some tasks, but for others it can prove painstaking, as we found out when we edited our preliminary task in iMovie. The first problem that we encountered was the fact that iMovie lacked ability to layer clips. This made editing very painstaking for our preliminary task, as we needed multiple clips to be timed perfectly for the continuity to flow correctly. This is why we also knew that we needed a multi-layer editing, which has support up to 1000 layers in Final Cut Pro X. Even though we would never need this much, it was nice to know that we didn't have a limit. The second problem was the very limited selection of sound editing tools available in iMovie. As we were trying to achieve lip syncing, audio was a crucial element that proved near impossible to perfection in iMovie. Then with our thriller film, we needed the ability to add lots of different sound effects to our clips, such as echo and distortion, so we knew immediately that iMovie was not up to the job of doing this and that Final Cut Pro X would be much more suitable. The third problem that we encountered when using iMovie for our preliminary task was that it only has a few very basic video effects, which are mostly considered overused. For this reason, we needed to also use Final Cut Pro X, as it provided us with a huge library of effects to choose from. We chose the teal and orange filter for our flashbacks due to the vibrancy and surreal atmosphere it creates. After our experience with iMovie, we knew that it wasn't the path that we wanted to take for editing our thriller film. For this, Apple's high-end video editing software Final Cut Pro X came into play. Final Cut Pro is almost as simple to use as iMovie, with lots of the same tools and features that are very user-friendly. Learning some of the new precision tools that are available in Final Cut Pro X proved quite time-consuming, but the result was exactly what we wanted.